They were born under a blood moon. That alone should have sealed their fate. Twin omegas were forbidden in the Northern Territories, an old superstition whispered among packs. 2 omegas born from one womb meant imbalance, meant prophecy, meant death, or worse. Their mother knew this the moment she felt the second heartbeat. Before we begin, if you love dark Lycan kings, forbidden mates, and stories that make your heart ache, like this video, subscribe, and step into the pack, because these stories only get deeper from here. She named them anyway. Lyra was born first quiet, observant, her tiny hand clutching her mother's finger as if she already understood the world was not kind. Alara followed moments later, screaming with defiance, her lungs strong, her spirit blazing. And on each of their chests, just beneath the collarbone, was the same crescent-shaped birthmark. Glowing faintly silver, the mark of the moonbound. The guards came before dawn. Steel boots on frozen earth. Torches cutting through the fog. No announcement, no mercy. Twin omegas, one of them said, voice flat. By alpha decree, their mother begged. She knelt until her knees bled, clutching both infants to her chest. She offered herself instead, her life, her wolf, her soul. They took the babies anyway. Lyra was ripped from her arms first. Alara screamed as her sister vanished into the fog. That was the last time they would see each other for 18 years. Lyra. Sold as property. Lyra was sold to a minor pack lord in the eastern lowlands. She grew up knowing only obedience. They told her omegas were meant to endure, to submit, to survive quietly. Her birthmark was hidden beneath rough fabric, beaten out of her whenever it glowed too brightly during full moons. By 16, Lyra had learned how not to cry. By 18, she believed she was unlovable. And yet, every full moon, she dreamed of another girl with the same face. Reaching for her, Alara, raised as a weapon. Alara was sold to something worse. A training compound. They did not break her, they sharpened her. Her birthmark was studied, documented, feared. She learned to fight alphas twice her size. Learned strategy, learned rage. They told her she was dangerous. She believed them. But every full moon, Alara dreamed of a girl who was crying, calling her name. Meanwhile, the Alpha King Rydian Blackthorn ruled the realm with iron restraint. His sons, Kale and Rowan, twin heirs, were born the same year the twin omegas vanished. Each boy carried a crescent-shaped birthmark over his heart. Matching. Perfect. The court whispered. The moon had not forgotten. Lyra learned early that silence was safer than hope. Hope made you reckless. Hope made you visible. And visible omegas were punished. Lyra, the quiet omega. The eastern lowlands were cold, but not as cold as the manor where Lyra lived. Lord Havelock did not beat her often. That would have required effort. Instead, he ignored her. Ignored her hunger. Ignored her illness. Ignored her existence until he needed something. She cleaned floors that never stayed clean, was summoned without warning, dismissed without thanks. And every full moon, when her birthmark glowed beneath her skin like moonlight trapped in flesh, she was locked in the cellar. Monstrous thing. The steward would hiss as he chained the door. Lyra stopped correcting them. The mark that wouldn't fade. The crescent over her heart pulsed with warmth during the moons. Not pain. Recognition. She would press her palm against it in the darkness, heart racing, breath shaking. And then the dreams would come. A girl her face, but sharper. Fiercer. Standing tall beneath open sky. Reaching. Always reaching. Don't leave me, Lyra whispered once into the dark. The dream girl never answered. The auction. The night everything changed, smelled of smoke and iron. Lyra was scrubbed, dressed, and paraded. An omega auction. She kept her eyes down. Until she felt it. That pull. A pressure in her chest so strong it made her stumble. The crescent burned. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She's marked, someone muttered. Moonbound? Lyra lifted her head and froze. 2 young men stood at the back of the hall. Alphas. Identical. Both staring at her like they'd been struck. And on each of their chests, visible even through royal black tunics. The same crescent mark. The Alpha Heirs. Prince Kale Blackthorn felt it first. The moment the Omega stepped onto the platform, his wolf surged. Mine. He didn't understand it, had never experienced anything like it. Beside him, his brother Rowan went rigid. Do you feel that? Rowan whispered. Kale couldn't answer, because the Omegas sent soft, fractured, aching, wrapped around them both like a memory stolen from another life. And her mark? It matched theirs. Perfectly. Panic in the court. This auction is suspended, Kale snapped. The room erupted. Lord Havelock turned white. You have no claim. Rowan's eyes flashed gold. This Omega is under royal protection, he said, voice cold enough to silence the hall. Lyra stood trembling, heart pounding so violently she thought she might faint. Royal? Protection? None of those words belonged to her. She backed away instinctively. No, she whispered. Kale heard it. The rejection. The fear. Something in his chest cracked. The first touch. When Kale reached for her, Lyra flinched. But the moment his fingers brushed her wrist, the crescent flared. Light flooded the hall. Gasps turned into screams. And in Lyra's mind, a voice. Found you. She collapsed. Meanwhile, far away, Alara woke with a scream. Her crescent burned like fire. She fell to her knees, breath ragged. They've found her, she whispered. The handlers stared. Found who? Alara's eyes lifted silver glowing. My sister. Alara had never been allowed to be weak. From the moment she could stand, they had trained her to fight. Not like an Omega. Like a weapon. Alara. Forged, not broken. The compound was carved into black stone, hidden beyond the northern cliffs where no pack claimed land. They called it Sanctum. A lie. Sanctum was where dangerous things were sharpened until they cut clean. Alara learned to fight blindfolded before she learned to read, learned to endure pain without screaming, learned that mercy was a weakness others would exploit. Her crescent mark was never hidden. They studied it, measured it, feared it. The moon marked you for a reason, her handler once said. Make yourself worthy of it. So she did. The dreams that wouldn't stop. Despite everything, the dreams followed her. A girl in chains. Quiet eyes. Breaking slowly. Every full moon, Alara woke with her hands shaking, chest burning. I'll find you, she whispered to the darkness. She didn't know how, only that she would. The night the moon answered. The night her crescent burned like fire, Alara was sparring. She dropped to her knees mid-strike. The world tilted. Her wolf howled. She's alive, Alara breathed. The handlers rushed forward. What's happening? Alara rose slowly. Silver light spilled from her mark. My sister has been found. Escape. They tried to stop her. That was their mistake. Alara didn't fight to kill. She fought to leave. Stone cracked. Steel bent. Wolves fell. By dawn, Sanctum burned behind her. She didn't look back. Back at the palace, Lyra awakens. Lyra woke in silk. Real silk. Sunlight poured through tall windows. For a moment, she thought she was dead. Then she smelled them. 2 alphas. The same scent. Different edges. Kale sat near the bed, rigid, guilt written into every line of his body. Rowan stood by the window, watchful, guarded. You're safe, Kale said gently. Lyra panicked. No Omega was ever safe in an alpha's den. She tried to rise. Rowan was beside her instantly but stopped short of touching her. We won't force you, he said. That frightened her more than chains. The truth begins to surface. Physicians came. Scholars followed. Whispers filled the palace. Twin Omegas. Twin heirs. Matching moon marks. Alpha King Rydian watched it all in silence. Fear coiled in his chest. Because the prophecy he'd buried was unfolding exactly as foretold. The first howl. That night, the moon rose full. Lyra's crescent glowed. Kale and Rowan's answered. Across the realm, Alara lifted her head and howled. Not in pain. In recognition. 3 voices answered her. 2 close. 1 far away. The bond had begun. Alpha King Rydian Blackthorn had ruled for 30 years without fear. War had not broken him. Rebellion had not shaken him. Even the moon's silence had never unsettled him. Until now, the prophecy he tried to bury. Rydian stood alone in the moon chamber. Ancient stone walls etched with warnings older than the kingdom itself. His fingers traced the carved words he had ordered sealed away decades ago. When twin Omegas bear the moon's mark, and twin heirs carry its echo, the throne shall no longer choose. It shall be claimed. Rydian had ensured the prophecy never came to pass. Or so he thought. He had ordered the twin Omegas sold, scattered, erased. And yet, here they were. The heirs confront the king. Kale didn't bother with formality. You knew, he said. Rydian's silence was confirmation enough. You let her suffer, Rowan said quietly, fury barely contained. You let both of them suffer. Rydian turned. I protected the realm. Kale's voice broke. By destroying children? Rydian's eyes flickered to the identical crescents, glowing faintly beneath his son's tunics. You were never meant to bond, he said. The words hit harder than any blade. Lyra hears the truth. Lyra stood outside the chamber, listening. Every word cut. Sold. Erased. Never meant to exist. Her hands shook. So this was why she was unwanted. Why the moon burned inside her like a question without an answer. She stepped back. And ran. Kale chooses. Kale felt it the moment she fled. The bond screamed. He followed without thinking. Found Lyra in the lower gardens. Curled against a stone pillar. Breath coming in ragged gasps. I wasn't supposed to live, she whispered. Kale knelt but didn't touch her. You were supposed to matter, he said. To me. Her eyes lifted. Something fragile flickered. Rowan watches the sky. Rowan stood alone on the battlements. The moon was rising. His crescent burned. And far beyond the palace walls. A howl echoed closer than before. Alara was coming. The council moves. Fear spread faster than truth. The High Council convened in secret. Twin Omegas mean upheaval, one elder hissed. The heirs are compromised. They must choose, another said, or be removed. A vote was called. Blood was discussed. Alara crosses the border. Alara didn't sneak into the capital. She walked. Guards felt her before they saw her. Silver eyes. Crescent blazing. No chains. When soldiers blocked her path, she spoke calmly. Move. They did. The moon's warning. That night, every wolf in the realm dreamed the same dream. 2 women standing back to back. 2 alphas kneeling. A throne cracked down the middle. And the moon watching. Waiting. The palace gates had never opened for an Omega like this. They opened because they had no choice. Alara enters the capital. Alara walked through the gates with her head high. No escort. No chains. No fear. The crescent over her heart glowed openly now, silver light spilling through her tunic. Courtiers whispered. Moonbound. Another one? So that makes 2. Alara ignored them all. She felt her sister. Close. So close it hurt. The moment of recognition. Lyra was in the inner courtyard when she felt it. Her breath caught. Her crescent flared so brightly she cried out. She turned and saw herself standing across the stones. Taller, stronger, eyes sharp with fire. Alara, Lyra whispered, not knowing how she knew the name. Alara stopped walking. The world fell silent. Lyra. They crossed the distance without thinking. No bow. No caution. Just arms tightening around each other like they'd never let go again. The moon answered. A wave of silver light rolled through the courtyard. Every wolf dropped to one knee, including the heirs. The heirs kneel. Kale hit the stone hard. Rowan followed, breath knocked from his lungs. They hadn't chosen to kneel. Their wolves had. Alara looked down at them, then at Lyra. Did they hurt you? She asked softly. Lyra shook her head. Not them! Alara nodded once. That was enough. The Alpha King sees the truth. Rydian watched from the balcony. The prophecy unfolded exactly as written. Twin Omegas united. Twin Heirs bound. The realm had chosen its axis. And it was no longer him. The bond clarifies. That night, under the full moon, the truth could no longer be denied. The bond was not singular. It was shared. Lyra felt safety with Kale, steadiness, warmth, gentleness. With Rowan, she felt clarity, understanding, patience, strength. Alara felt fire with Rowan's strategy, balance, steel. With Kale, she felt loyalty, trust earned in silence. 4 souls. 1 design. The council strikes. At dawn, the council moved. Arrest the moonbound. The decree rang. Guards flooded the courtyard. Alara stepped forward. Try, she said. Kale rose beside her. Rowan followed. Lyra stood between them all, no longer shaking. The crescent marks burned like stars. Blood is spilled. The first blade never reached its target. It shattered mid-air. The moon had chosen. The courtyard did not erupt into chaos. It fell into silence. The kind that comes before a storm. The moment no one planned for. The shattered blade lay on the stones, vibrating as if struck by lightning. Guards hesitated. No one wanted to be the second to try. Alara lowered her hand slowly. She hadn't cast a spell. She hadn't needed to. The moon is awake, she said calmly. Lyra felt it too, a presence vast and watchful, pressing gently against her chest. Not commanding. Inviting. The heirs stand together. Kael stepped forward first. If you raise a weapon against them, he said, voice ringing through the courtyard, you raise it against your future alpha. Rowan's voice followed quiet, deadly. And against the moon's chosen. The guards backed away. Not out of loyalty. Out of fear. The Alpha King's choice. Rydian descended the steps slowly. Every eye turned. For centuries, he said, the moon guided us. And for centuries, we feared what we could not control. He stopped before the four of them. I was wrong. It was the hardest sentence he had ever spoken. The council watched, horrified. Lyra finds her voice. Lyra took a step forward. Her knees trembled, but she did not stop. I was sold, she said softly. Used. Forgotten. Murmurs rippled. But I am still here. Her crescent glowed not painfully, but warmly. And I will not disappear again. The courtyard bowed. Alara's warning. Alara's gaze swept the council. You wanted weapons, she said. You created me. Her eyes flashed silver. But I am not yours. The moonlight surged. The dream spreads. That night, the dream returned. This time, the entire realm dreamed it. 4 figures standing beneath the moon. The throne behind them not broken. Changed. Wider. Shared. The first howl of war. Beyond the borders, rival packs felt it. A shift. An opportunity. Messengers wrote. Banners were raised. The realm was stirring. The bond seals. On the highest tower, Lyra stood between Kael and Rowan. Alara watched the horizon. None of them touched. They didn't need to. The bond pulsed stronger now, steadier. Fate had begun to move. And it would not stop. The first arrow flew at dawn. The betrayal. It came from inside the capital. A high council banner lowered just enough. The arrow was silver-tipped, aimed at Lyra's heart. Kael moved without thought. The arrow struck his shoulder instead. Blood hit stone. Lyra screamed. Chaos breaks loose. Protect the moonbound, Rowan roared. The courtyard exploded into motion. Guards loyal to the throne clashed with those loyal to the council. Alara caught the next arrow mid-air and crushed it in her fist. Her eyes burned white silver. That, she said calmly, was a mistake. Alara unleashed. She didn't transform. She didn't need to. The ground cracked where she stepped. Moonlight surged through the courtyard like a living thing, throwing attackers back, snapping weapons, forcing knees to stone. Not killing. Judging. The moon was watching. Lyra chooses to stand. Lyra knelt beside Kael, hands shaking as she pressed against his wound. Stay with me, she whispered. Kael smiled faintly. Worth it. Something in Lyra snapped. No clicked. The fear loosened its grip. She stood. The crescent flared brighter than ever before. The power of the gentle Omega. Lyra raised her hand. Not in anger. In command. Enough. The word rippled outward. Wolves froze mid-strike. Blades fell. Hearts stuttered. The courtyard went silent. Alara stared at her sister not in surprise. In pride? Rowan faces the traitor. Rowan dragged the counselor responsible forward. You feared losing control, Rowan said quietly. You already have. The counselor wept. The realm watched. The Alpha King bows. Rydian stepped forward. Then, to the shock of every wolf present, he knelt. By blood and moon, he said, voice steady, I recognize the moonbound. The bond surged. The realm accepted. The true reunion. That night, beneath a sky split with silver clouds, the 4 stood together. Kael's wound healed slowly, moon-blessed, not erased. Alara placed her forehead against Lyra's. I promised I'd find you, she murmured. Lyra smiled through tears. You did. The moon howled. Not in warning. In approval, the realm held its breath. The council's judgment. The High Council was dragged before the throne at dusk. No ceremony, no mercy. Rydian stood but did not sit. I ruled by fear, he said, and it ends tonight. The eldest counselor spat. You'll doom us all. Alara stepped forward. Then doom us, she said evenly. We'll survive. The blood trial. Ancient law demanded balance. Blood for betrayal. The moon did not demand death. It demanded truth. Each counselor was forced to lay a hand over Lyra's crescent. Those who had ordered the selling of the twin omegas screamed as moonfire burned their lies away. Some lived. Some did not. The realm learned who it had followed. The choice of the heirs. When it was done, Cale and Rowan stood before the throne. Rydian removed his crown. I cannot rule what the moon has changed, he said. He held the crown out. To one of you. Silence. Cale and Rowan looked at each other. Then at Lyra. Then at Alara. No, Cale said. Rowan nodded. We will not choose. A throne rewritten. Lyra's voice was steady. Then don't. Every eye turned. The moon didn't mark one ruler, she said. It marked balance. Alara stepped beside her. Shared power, she said. Or none at all. The moon flared. The ancient throne cracked and reshaped itself. Wider. 4 sigils burned into the stone. The bond complete. The bond settled not as chains but as roots. Kyle felt Lyra's calm steady him. Rowan felt Alara's fire sharpen him. The sisters felt each other whole, no longer searching. The realm accepts. One by one, wolves knelt. Not to a king. To a union. A new order. The final dawn. At sunrise, the realm felt different. Lighter. The moon lingered longer than it ever had before. Waiting. Watching. Satisfied. The coronation that broke tradition. The moon chamber had never held so many witnesses. Wolves from every territory crowded the ancient hall, alphas who had doubted, betas who had whispered, omegas who had never dared to hope. They came to see if the prophecy would consume them. Instead, they watched it save them. Lyra stood before the reshaped throne, hands clasped to stop their trembling. Alara stood beside her, steady, unyielding, silver eyes, scanning the crowd for threats that no longer dared approach. Cale and Rowan flanked them both, not as guards, but as equals. The crescent marks on all 4 chests glowed in perfect harmony. Rydian stepped forward, no longer king, but still alpha. The moon has spoken, he said, voice carrying to every corner. And I will not silence it again. He placed the crown now split into 4 interlocking pieces onto a velvet cushion. This realm was built on singular power, he continued. It nearly died because of it. Silence. Today, we choose balance. Lyra's vow. Lyra reached for the first piece of the crown. It was warm beneath her fingers alive. She lifted it slowly, and when she spoke, her voice no longer trembled. I was taught that omegas were meant to endure in silence, she said, that we were worth less than the alphas who claimed us. Her eyes swept the hall. I will not rule that way. She placed the piece over her heart, not on her head. The moon answered with light so pure it brought tears. I vow to protect those who cannot protect themselves, Lyra said. To give voice to the voiceless, to ensure no child is ever sold for the crime of existing. The hall erupted in howls of approval. Alara smiled small, fierce, proud. Alara's promise. Alara took the second piece without hesitation. She held it high so every wolf could see. I was forged into a weapon, she said, voice sharp and clear. Taught that strength meant domination. She looked at Lyra. My sister taught me it means protection. She placed the crown piece over her own heart. I vow to defend this realm not with fear, but with honor, Alara said, to ensure that power is never again mistaken for cruelty, and to stand beside those brave enough to fight for what is right. The moonlight surged. Wolves who had once cowered now stood taller. Cale's commitment. Cale stepped forward, his wound from the arrow still healing beneath his tunic. A reminder. A choice. He took the third piece gently, as if it might break. I was born to inherit a throne, he said quietly. I never questioned if I deserved it. His eyes found Lyra. She taught me that leadership is not a birthright, Cale said. It is a responsibility earned through compassion. He placed the crown piece over his heart. I vow to lead with kindness, he said. To listen before I command. To protect not because it is my duty, but because it is right. Tears streaked Lyra's face. Chaol reached for her hand. She let him take it. Rowan's oath. Rowan was last. He held the final piece and studied it in the moonlight. I was taught that strategy required distance, he said. That caring was weakness. He looked at Alara, then at his brother, then at Lyra. They taught me it is our greatest strength. He placed the crown piece over his heart. I vow to govern with wisdom, Rowan said, to see every wolf as worthy of justice, to ensure that this realm thrives not through dominance but through unity. The fourth piece locked into place. The moon blazed. The throne awakens. The reshaped throne pulsed with ancient power. 4 seats equal, interlocking, whole. Lyra sat first, heart pounding. Alara followed, hand resting on her sister's shoulder. Chaol and Rowan took their places on either side. The crescents flared in unison, and the throne sang. A sound like bells and thunder and the whisper of wind through trees felt more than heard. The entire hall dropped to one knee. Not in fear. In reverence. The moon had chosen. The realm had accepted. The first decree. Lyra's voice rang clear. From this day forward, she said, no Omega will be sold, traded, or discarded. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Every wolf alpha, beta, omega will be judged by their actions, not their designation. Alara's voice joined hers. And any who harm the innocent will answer to the moon. Chaol stood. We will rebuild what was broken, he said. With fairness. With honor. Rowan finished. Together. The hall erupted. Howls shook the stone. Hope, real, tangible hope, flooded the realm for the first time in decades. Rydian's peace. Rydian stood alone in the shadows, watching. His sons had become better than he ever was. The Omegas he had tried to erase had become the realm's salvation. He felt no bitterness, only relief. Lyra found him later, in the gardens where moonflowers bloomed. You could have killed us, she said softly. Rydian nodded. I should have protected you, he replied. Silence. Then, you can start now, Lyra said. She extended her hand. Rydian stared at it, this Omega who had every right to hate him. He took it. I will, he said. The moon witnessed. Forgiveness was given. Not forgotten. But possible. The sisters' night. That night, Lyra and Alara sat together on the palace roof, legs dangling over the edge. The moon hung low and full, closer than it had ever been. Do you ever wonder, Lyra said quietly, what our lives would have been if we'd never been separated? Alara considered. Every day, she admitted. Lyra leaned her head against her sister's shoulder. I'm sorry you had to become so strong alone. Alara's throat tightened. I'm sorry you had to survive so much pain. They sat in silence, breathing in sync. We're together now, Lyra whispered. Always, Alara promised. The crescent marks glowed softly, no longer burning. Resting. The heirs bond. Chaol found Rowan in the training yard long after midnight. Can't sleep, Chaol asked. Rowan shook his head. Feels like if I do, I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. Chaol laughed softly. I know. They stood together watching the moon. We were supposed to compete, Rowan said. For the throne, for power. We were supposed to be alone, Chaol agreed. Instead, we're whole. Rowan smiled. Yeah. Their crescents pulsed in rhythm. Brothers. Equals. Chosen. The realm heals. In the weeks that followed, change swept through the territories like spring after endless winter. Omegas who had been hidden were brought forward, given choice, given voice. Alphas who had ruled through fear were stripped of power. Laws were rewritten. The moon chamber became a place of counsel, not command. And at the center of it all, 4 figures who had been torn apart by prophecy and reunited by fate. They did not rule as tyrants. They governed as guardians. The first challenge. Not everyone accepted the new order. A rogue alpha from the southern wastes challenged the throne. 4 leaders means no leaders, he snarled. The realm will fall to chaos. Alara stepped forward, eyes cold. Then prove it, she said. Fight me. The challenge was accepted. The rogue alpha was powerful, vicious, experienced. Alara was faster. She didn't kill him. She broke his pride. When he yielded, gasping, she offered him a hand. Strength without wisdom is just violence, she said. Learn the difference. He took her hand. The realm learned. Lyra's gift. Lyra established sanctuaries across the realm, places where abused Omegas could heal without fear. She visited each one personally, listened to every story, wept with those who had suffered as she had. "You are not broken," she told them. "You are surviving, and that makes you stronger than you know." The sanctuaries became symbols of hope, and Lyra became the heart the realm had been missing. Kael's justice. Kael reformed the courts. No longer would alphas receive lighter sentences simply for their designation. Every wolf, regardless of rank, faced equal judgment. It was controversial. It was necessary. "Justice," Kael said firmly, "does not bow to power." The realm grew fairer. Slowly. Painfully. But truly. Rowan's strategy. Rowan rebuilt alliances with neighboring territories. Not through threats. Through trade. Through respect. Through shared prosperity. "We are strongest," he said, "when we lift others with us." Old enemies became cautious allies. The realm expanded not through conquest, but through cooperation. The moon's final gift. 1 year after the coronation, the moon did something it had never done before. It spoke, not in words, in feeling. Every wolf in the realm felt it at once, a warmth in their chest, a certainty in their soul. "You were always meant for this." Lyra and Elara stood together in the moon chamber, hands clasped. Kael and Rowan stood behind them. The crescent marks flared one final time, and then settled into gentle warmth. No longer burning. No longer pulling. Complete. 5 years later, the palace gardens had never been more alive. Flowers bloomed in colors that hadn't been seen in generations. Children Omega, Beta, Alpha played together without fear, without hierarchy. Lyra sat beneath a willow tree, reading to a small group of pups who hung on every word. Elara trained nearby, teaching young wolves to fight with honor instead of rage. Kael walked the grounds with Rydian, the former king, now an advisor, a grandfather to the realm's future. Rowan stood at the gates, welcoming an envoy from the Eastern Territories, once enemies, now friends. The crescent marks had faded to silver scars. Beautiful. Permanent. Proof of what they had survived. The last moonrise. That night, the 4 of them stood together on the highest tower. The moon rose full and radiant. "Do you think it's proud of us?" Lyra asked softly. Ilarda smiled. "I think it knew we'd get here." Kael wrapped an arm around Lyra's shoulders. "We couldn't have done it alone." Rowan nodded. "We were never meant to." The moon shone brighter. And in the distance, a howl. Then another. Then 1,000 more. The realms sang together. Not in sorrow. Not in fear. In unity. In hope. In the knowledge that they had been broken and had chosen to heal. The final words. Lyra looked at her sister. Elara looked back. No words needed. They had found each other. They had saved each other. And they had changed the world. The crescent marks glowed one last time. Soft. Steady. Home. The end. Soft, reflective tone. And so the twin Omegas, who were sold separately, became the queens who ruled together. The Alpha heirs who were meant to compete became the kings who chose unity. The moon that had marked them as outcasts revealed them as saviors. And the realm that had feared the prophecy learned to trust in fate, because some bonds are written in the stars. And some loves are destined to heal the world. Pause. Thank you for listening to Twin Omegas Were Sold Separately. The Alpha King's heirs carry birthmarks that match both Omegas. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with those who believe in the power of hope, love, and second chances. Gentle music fades in. May the moon guide you, and may you always find your way home. End.